Patch 11.2 is nearly here, and I wanted to run through a few tips and tricks to help you out when the patch does go live. The first tip up I had is related to the new phase diving mechanic coming in the patch. You'll unlock this as you progress through the chapters of the main campaign, and what it will allow you to do is phase into a different version of the same zones. So there's going to be new mobs, new objectives, new things to do, things to collect within this, and there's a few tips we can give regarding this. The first is, once you're actually in phase diving, if you click on the portal again, like the thing that allowed you to access phase diving, there'll now be a kind of flight path icon. Clicking this will open a map, and you can now select all the various nodes throughout all the sub areas within Koresh and instantly teleport to them. So this is something you can use for just getting around in general. So you don't want to be in phase diving, but you want to be on the opposite side of Koresh. You can jump into phase diving, teleport, then jump out of phase diving, and now you've saved yourself a bunch of time. So it's very quick and useful for getting around. The other tip I have is if you speak to this NPC on the Overlook, they'll sell you this phase regulator. And what this will allow you to do is have an item that you can click to take yourself out of phase diving. Without this, the only two alternatives is to use one of the panels. You'll get like an extra action button pop up, or you can click off the buff, but that can be definitely awkward if you have a lot of buffs active. So just having this on your bars allows you to instantly click it and get out of phase diving very quickly. The next tip is going to be regarding skipping the campaign on your alts. So there's going to be another skip, which is good. Once you've reached chapter 4 on your main character, your alts will now also be able to skip to chapter 4, which is the point where they can get the raid quest, and then they'll do that, and then afterwards you'll get the chapter 5 stuff. However, the way this is currently implemented is kind of strange. So you'll need to pick up the initial quests on your alts in Donegal. You'll go through that, you'll be taken to Koresh, and now you'll have a next step quest where you can finally select the skip campaign. That's great, so this is going to skip you straight to chapter 4, but the issue is you don't currently have the cloak. This quest for some reason currently does not give you the cloak. Hopefully they're probably going to change this, but less than a week away from launch this is still the case, so I'm just going to run through this just in case it is kept live. So what we actually need to do is head your alt over to the Overlook. You'll have to fly your way there. You're going to speak to this NPC here, and he's going to now have an option for you to get another cloak again. You're going to get the cloak, you're going to be able to equip this, and this will allow you to do all the other activities that you couldn't do without the cloak. For example, phase diving. Without the cloak you cannot access phase diving. And while you're at this NPC, you might as well get your cloak upgrades if you haven't on this character yet. The next tip is regarding the Oasis event, which is the ecological succession. You'll be going there and basically aiding the ecosystem to grow and progress. And you'll unlock this as you progress through the main campaign. It'll kind of show up as its own looking campaign icon. It'll be like the shield with the exclamation mark. And you're going to go through this campaign. But the reason I'm saying to do this now, because it does seem to be time gated, and time gated based on when you completed that campaign chapter. So it's worth knocking this stuff out as quickly as possible so that you get the future chapters show up sooner as well. And if you don't know when a chapter is available, you can actually check your quest journal, and this will show a kind of section for the ecological succession. It'll say either come back later, or it'll say that there's a new quest for you to go and do, and you can head over to the Oasis and do the next chapter. There's an additional tip for the ecological succession as well, and that is that you can do this stuff on your alts and get the wriggling cash, which is the kind of weekly event for doing this stuff, doing the quests, doing the devourer storms. All this stuff will fill up the progression bar, and once you finish that, you'll get a wriggling cash. Inside this cash can be basic things like gear, can give you pets, but it can also give you a mount. And we were able to spam this out on alts to obtain the mount. Who knows if that will remain the case for live, but as things currently stand, you can do this on alts, so use your alt armor if you want to get your hands on that mount a little bit faster. However, we weren't actually able to confirm if pets can drop from doing this on your alts. No matter how many caches we didn't see any pets drop. And another little additional tip for this as well is the pets that we've gotten from this wriggling cache so far are actually cageable, and there is a lot of them to obtain from this. This could be a good little way of making some gold early on. You get your pets, you chuck them in a cage, chuck them on the auction house, and you can probably make a good chunk of gold from doing that. The source for these pets hasn't been updated either currently on the PTR. They still show as being flagged from a vibrating box, which doesn't exist. Their actual source is the wriggling cache, so make sure if you're looking to see which pets are available, you are looking for the vibrating box as the source, unless they hopefully update that for launch. The next tip is getting your 3 threads for the cloak each week. So you're going to be able to get these 3 threads each week, and once you have 3, you can upgrade the node on your cloak, which will give you an overall boost on your cloak. You'll get get some like new perks, but you'll also gain more eye level on the cloak too, making it more powerful. Now, one thing you can do to get these faster though is just run low level delves. If you just run low level delves at the end, you should have a chance of getting the thread from the very end. I've not actually seen it not drop. Not too sure if that's maybe a catch-up mechanic because I've missed the first week, but either way I was able to get these on alts. But there's going to be a bunch of other sources like the weekly wanted quests or the warrants and doing kind of M+ and other various content like that. So you shouldn't have too much difficulty getting your threads, but do make sure you are getting them done each week. And once you have the threads, you can head to the NPC we talked about earlier, but also do make sure you are upgrading your cloak on your alts. You won't need to re-get the threads, but you will need to go to that NPC and re-click on the nodes to unlock them to make sure you are getting that eye level boost. The next tip I have is upgrading your explorer gear, especially on alts that have a Valor Stone cap, because early on in the season, we're actually not going to have our Valor Stones reset. They won't be tradable to your other characters either, so it's better to use some of them at least, because otherwise you're going to overcap and they will go to waste. And the explorer gear actually gets upgraded to a pretty decent eye level, especially if your alts aren't very well geared. So I definitely would recommend getting the explorer gear from like the campaign or the 5 million world quests that you can access from either the normal phase-in or the phase diving phase-in. There'll be even more world quests there too, or killing rares, etc. Either way, you should be able to get your hands on a good chunk of gear, and then you can use your Valor Stones to upgrade that without wasting any crests. And honestly, you could even use the weathered crest as well, because we don't really need to care too much about those. The next tips up are going to be related to delves, and the first one is in Tazavesh within Koresh. There's actually going to be a portal room a little bit out of the way, but if you head there, at least during the PTR cycle, when a bountiful delve was up, the portal directly taking you to that bountiful delve would be there. This allows you to quickly get to your bountiful delves, or you could use them to get to particular zones as well if you want to be nearby to those areas for whatever it is you're doing. The next tip as well is that once you hit level 3 in your Delver's journey, you're actually going to unlock a new NPC that will show up when you complete a 9+ delve. And what this guy will do is if you complete a 9 delve, at the very end you'll be able to purchase one of the new delve trinkets from this guy for undercoins. These are going to be champion level items, and this is going to be a random selection every day, so you can head to this guy, check what he's got, and buy a trinket if you have one that's going to be very, very good for your alt characters, or in the early stages maybe even for your main character. So this is a nice way of kind of getting some of these really powerful trinkets. As I said, especially on your alts, this is going to be very nice. The next tip will just be TLDR, running through the things that you should be doing on a week-to-week basis within the new zone, just to make sure you're getting the most out of the content. So the first thing is, do make sure you are still heading to Dawn Ogal and picking up the weekly dungeon quest, because that will give Koresh reputation. You can get the weekly pinnacle quest from here. If you're a PvPer or you want to just get some extra benefits, you can look to do the world PvP quests as well. It's up to you, but there's still going to be quests that are relevant in the current content, so we can be picking those up from Dawn Ogal. Next up, within Koresh itself, there's going to be a weekly warrant quest that we can get from within Tazavesh once you've progressed the campaign enough, and the renown track does say it needs renown 3, but that's not been very consistent. But there will be a main NPC you can speak to, you'll get the quest from him, and then the board behind him will open up, allowing you to pick up the warrant for the week. And this will give you access to one of the threads, it'll give you some reputation, and it will give you progression towards the achievement for picking up the pets and mounts. There's also going to be a weekly quest tied to phase diving. This is going to give you some of the untethered coins, which you can use to purchase a variety of things like pets, mounts, and also transmogs. So do make sure you're getting that done in phase diving too. There's going to be the weekly ecological succession stuff. So you head over there, you complete the activities, you'll fill up the bar, and you will get that cash for doing that stuff each week per character. There's going to be 4 Devourer Swarms you can do each week, and these are going to have their own unique loot. So once you've completed one, it'll eventually move to a new location where you can go and take part in it again. They all work exactly the same way though, but completing one of these Devourer events will give you an item, and if you get 20 of these items, so that's going to take about 5 weeks, we assume you're going to be able to combine it together to get a mount. So if you are a collector, you definitely want to make sure you're doing all 4 of them each week so you can get this done. There will also be world quests, which will kind of show up every few days, so you can do these within phase diving and not phase diving, so do make sure you're knocking out of all of your world quests. And doing world quests will unlock a special assignment for the week in the zone as well, so you can do that for a chunk of rewards and some gear too. And there's also going to be a ton of rares that we can kill weekly. It does seem like they've moved more towards a weekly style instead of the daily style we had in Undermine, so you do want to make sure you're running around and killing each red weekly so you get that little bit of extra reputation if you're trying to min-max your rep. The next tip is regarding your artifact cloak. So in the patch, you're going to get an artifact cloak that you're going to want to wear. It gives you an additional benefit, it gives you some high stats, it can be upgraded, and it also is needed to be able to use some of the activities within the zone, but it will have a socket, and this is going to be one socket market where you can put in a stat of your choice. Now by default there's going to be a vendor near where you get the cloak that will allow you to purchase one of the stats. However, there is a way of getting even better stats, and that is from a tailor. So once tailors hit renown 5, they're going to unlock a recipe that they can purchase, and this will allow them to craft an even more powerful stat item that you can put within your cloak. So if you're looking to get the most out of your character's power and the most out of the cloak as well, you will want to look to get that commissioned from tailors so you can get that socketed into your gear. Additionally, while we're talking about hitting renown 5, this is something you could do within the first week if you're looking to rush towards it. You could do this by going through the main campaign as far as you can, getting all these side quests done, getting all the lore items done, killing all the rares once, doing your weekly quests. If you do all the activities you can, you should be able to hit renown 5, allowing you access to some of the recipes like the contracts and the tailoring recipes too. Although I do think it is fairly easy to hit renown 5, so I do think you will see quite a few people with this. It probably isn't going to be the biggest gold opportunity, but because of that, it does probably mean that contracts will be fairly cheap very early on. So if you're looking to have a little bit more reps squeezed out of the content you're doing, then I definitely would keep an eye on the prices of contracts so you can pick one up and get that little bit of extra rep from doing your world quests. So that brings us to the end of this tips and tricks video. Hopefully there was some stuff in here that you found useful and you're going to have a better experience in 11.2. Outside of that, look out for more videos coming soon. I hope you enjoy the patch. Thanks for watching guys. See ya.